Okay, welcome to the beach house build. Today, what have we got today? We have got some leaks. We have 3 gutters up on the roof, all aiming towards the south side, which is the road side, and all of them come down through the cavity and they 90-degree out straight to the road. What we do have at the moment is in the far corner over here in the basement, we have a bit of water coming through the wall, and we also have water. See that stain? That's where water comes through. So we assume they're coming through at the bottom where the elbow are. Recently, since we've been doing some work on the roof for the solar, we've actually seen more leaking coming from this because this gutter is now being used. And 2 things happened. Our gut said that by the time the soil and the stones outside was laid, it's obviously pulled down and broken or cracked the actual pipework. And that's what's happened. So what we've had to do is obviously go out the front here to actually get through so we can see through. There we're showing. Sherman's outside, and we found 2 things. First of all, it sheared off completely. So that gutter there that has never really worked has had water that's been leaking straight into here, if it ever has any water go down it at all, that is. Since we've now done some work upstairs and it's getting more water, we've had a lot more water coming through here and onto the floor down here, as you can see. So the actual 90 itself was sheared off completely, so the weight of the actual soil and the astroturf has come down and just literally sheared off completely. So we've now cut that elbow out, but as you know, with pipe work, if it's already connected and there's no movement, you're taking a piece out, but you can't just put a piece straight back in again. You've got to try and slide it on with something they call it a socket here. In England, it's a male-to-male joint. So basically what we've got to do is we've got to find a way of connecting up, putting a new 90 in with some form of male-to-male connector on both ends, but obviously we've got to be able to go up, which means you can't go forward, and we've got to go forward, which means you can't go up. Or both of those, one of those. Anyway, so what we've got to try and do ourselves, we've got to try and get the pipe work so it can go down, so we can push the actual elbow onto outside and then allow it to come back up again. So Sherwin is outside, bless him, in the heat, digging away out there, as you can see. In fact, let me spin it around because that is very bright. I can't turn it around anymore. He's better turn it around. So as you can see here, just about, we can get a bit of movement on that pipework now. So that should now enable us to be able to push that 90 onto outside, but pull it down to the point where as we push it on, we should be able to allow it to come back up again. So this is the first attempt. So as you can see, we've now got a 3-inch socket now glued on with a bit of pipework in the middle. So that enables us to go up, and now we've got the 90 going out that way. So what we've got to do now is measure how far we are now from the pipework outside. We've already put on a socket. You can't bloody see it because it's so bright. As you can see there, we've already got a socket on outside, and we are about between that pipe surface and the socket outside, we're about 10 mil. So what we've got to try and do now is cut a piece of pipe work to enable the 2 sockets, which is about 1.5 inches. So that's 3 inches plus a little bit in the middle, about 1/4 of an inch. That enables us now, if we now glue that into that corner piece, ding, then that will give us about 1.75 inches aiming out of pipe work. That will enable us, sorry to use the word enable, but that will enable us to potentially push that pipe down, push the whole 90 out, connecting glued, and we've got to glue both at the same time. So we're going to have to obviously clean this one, clean that one, glue that one, glue this one, and then pull down, push forward, and then straight back up again. So it's basically 2 in 1. If it goes wrong, then technically you've actually got 2 sockets, a 90 elbow, and 2 pieces of pipe work that are going to be completely wasted. But there's no way of testing it. You've got to just do it and then hope that you can get the actual movement in the pipework needed in order to get it on. So wish me luck with it. And let me see if I can try and spin around and show you obviously where we are so far. Yeah, that's better. So as you can see, we've actually got, number one, we've got a hole all the way down there that's never been filled, because basically the cavities that the gutters were in weren't filled. So really they should fill those afterwards, but they even leave them empty in case you ever have a problem, because then that way you can break upstairs and you can pull the whole pipe out and put a new one back in again. So that's understandable. But you would normally fill down here because this is where the actual 90 goes out that way. That would be filled up with concrete. But the other thing we found when we busted this out is we saw this big gaping hole. They never filled the front of the building, which is absolute mad. So anyway, what we've got to do now, obviously once we've repaired this, we've got to box this up and pour that with waterproof concrete. Again, you guys have heard me in the past talk about this stuff. So Next Seal is the best waterproof I found on the island. It's a powdered product, paper product. It's a powdered product. It comes with a scoop. You add the scoop into cement, and what it does is this. You see this bleeding coming through here. It literally tries to stop any form of moisture getting through. So I've managed to get a little box today because we ran out of that. 140 Bayesian dollars for what they class as a 2 kilogram box, but it will do about 18 to 19, if not 20 bags of cement. So yeah, what we've got to do next is we've got to get some stones and some cement, and we've got to mix that up with some of the Next Seal. We've got to get it poured in here. We need to get all of this watered down and cleaned in here first to ensure it's as undusty as possible, because what we've got to try and do now is we've got to try and do some form of slurry in there to ensure that we create a waterproof pour, to ensure that we don't allow any moisture to be coming through. Some people would use Worldcrete. I don't like that. I would normally use a cement slurry with a waterproof in it. I dampen the area, I'd put that on there and leave that for about half an hour, let that start drawing, dampen it again, then box it and pour it to ensure you're allowing the three surfaces, the old one, the slurry and the pour, to bond together. Next Seal apparently do a product called Next Seal Honeycomb, I think you called it. So it's designed for little things like this, where you want to pour it and you need an old surface and a new surface to create the strongest cold joint as possible. I don't know if you guys know, but if there's an old bit of concrete and you've got a new bit of concrete, it doesn't matter what you do, you create a cold joint, there's always going to be some form of compromise in between the two, which allows moisture to come through. The Next Seal powder actually starts crystallizing in between those gaps to try and stop any moisture coming through. As soon as water goes in, it reacts it and makes it go even better. So as soon as it starts getting wet, then it starts crystallizing and sealing that gap. So that's probably what we're going to do. But obviously we've probably got to do it in two stages. We've probably got to box up to about here and pour down. And then once we've boxed up to there, then we can obviously then box up a bit higher and start pouring down, because we've got to try and get this filled right up to the top. Yeah, what a pain in the butt. So anyway, that's where we are so far. So let me finish making the actual elbow and the sockets, and then I'll film and show you where I will with the rest. Sorry about that, incoming call. Yeah, so now what we've got to try and do is we've got to try and get that 1 3/4 inches into that hole out there, which as you can see is up here. So we've got to be clear. We've got to clear that. So as you can see, we're probably going to have to come down by about 2 inches. That means we'll be able to push that on and then come straight back up again. At the moment, that's where we need to be. Does that make sense? So, but I think if we fill that with concrete first, so that's the hardest part to get to, and then get this elbow on for this evening, then tomorrow we can then do the boxing up to this level here first, pour completely around this elbow, which will now be in the concrete, and then further box up and pour a little bit more. So we're not going to let any of it go off. The only thing we might have to let go off is this piece first, because we want to get that done first. So tomorrow it'll be the same thing. We'll put a slurry all the way through here, make sure it absorbs into here, absorbs into here, absorbs into here, and then once that's drawn a little bit, then pour to ensure that that soaks up the waterproof and the slurry, but doesn't draw enough to make sure that it doesn't bond with the new. And again, we'll do it in stages. We'll get the elbow covered first and then come up higher. And obviously then the difficult thing is what we're going to do with the outside, because obviously the pipe's going to be in the way of the outside. So we obviously normally you'd box on the outside and pour. We obviously can't do that because we have an irrigation pipe going straight past, and we have the outside gutter pipe as well. So that's what we're contending with so far, but looks like we can do it. I'm pretty sure we can get that pipe bent down by that needed 2 to 2.5 inches. If we can do that, then it'll be a case of clean glue, get Sherwin outside to lean on the pipe down, I can push in, he can let off, and it should go back up into place. That's the only way I could do it. But say if there was no movement on the outside one, you're screwed. Let me know in the comments if you guys know a way of putting a 90-degree elbow into 2 fixed pipes, because that's technically what we'd be having to do. But because the outside one's got soil underneath it, we've been able to dig underneath. That way we can get some movement down, which should enable us to push in, obviously, and then allow up. But if that was fixed on both ends, let me know in the comments below, what would we normally do? Because that would be a challenge, that's for sure. So anyway, we're going to mix up the concrete now. I'll show you that, and show you the pour, and I'll show you once that's finished. Okay, we got the neck seal in there. Ah, neck seal.
Next thing? Oh.
Oh yeah. Okay, so neck seal is that powder I told you about. We'll mix that in. It's got to be really mixed well though. So you put maybe half of that, not even half of that really. I mean, that would be excessive, but that would be enough. Shove that in there. We've got to try and mix that in really well. So basically this little cup that's come with, I think is a 4-ounce cup. And apparently that is good for 1 bag of cement. Yeah. So I can't see it hurting adding more than needed. If anything, it should be more effective, I would have thought, but it's pretty good stuff. We need to get that mixed in as best we can to ensure that it's across the whole thing. And then basically, if any form of moisture penetrates that block on the outside this way, then it will obviously activate the actual ingredient to start crystallising and creating that, it's like a white calcium. So anyway, just going to put it down here, see that white calcium? So it crystallises and obviously blocks any form of cracks, any form of weakness. So because as you can see it's quite difficult to get to, we'll start off by doing this one and getting that level. I would normally do both at the same time, mainly because this is going to dry at some stage, and then we're going to pour another concrete on it, so basically it will create just another cold joint. So it would have been better to do it all in one, but I just don't see how they're going to do that with the time we've got. As it is, it's past showing its finish time. So the water that was in the bottom is now raising. In an ideal world, we could have obviously got that out, but there's not really what we can do about that. If anything, the water should hopefully pour over the top. I'll tell you what to do, Sharon. Grab hold of that neck seal as well and pour a little bit on that water in there quickly. I'll put a little, just sprinkle a bit in there. That's it, and then use that, use the trowel just to poke all in and get it down. That's it. Lovely. I think leave it there, because I think yeah, we want to try and sink it down. The next bit we want to try and go lower rather than higher, don't we? So I think that's all right.
I was thinking.
Yeah, nice. Just give it a good old poke and make sure you get all the bubbles out. And so normally with something like this, you would vibrate and get the bubbles out and whatever else, but you don't need to do it unless it's very small.
Yeah.
And hopefully what that will do is any water that is going to come through it in any way, shape or form should at least stop going down there. That's obviously where it's been going before.
Yeah.
And then in a minute what we'll do is we'll lean on, we'll show him can go out and put all of his energy into leaning on that. We'll obviously shove in, shove up. And then tomorrow we'll obviously box out and start doing the fill around it. So that will at least repair it for this evening. And hopefully let that draw and let that go off. Okay, right, on, done. Dual job, dual area, and dual fix. So let me spin you around and show you what we've done. Okay, so now we obviously have this little bit here. We've kept that low so that we can obviously get the actual concrete when we pour it tomorrow going a bit further down. We've obviously got the elbow on. It's a bit bright, so why not show it? But they both went in quite nice, and we've got around about a 12mm space in between the two there, which you can't really see due to the light, I would have thought. Yeah, you can't really see it. But anyway, there's about a 12mm gap in between the two. I'd like it to be closer, but there's nothing we can do because there's literally no movement on this. even though it's not poured with concrete, this hole, as you can see there, it's completely concreted against. So there's no movement in this pipe in any way, shape or form. So it's we were lucky to get it on there. So anyway, 2 sockets, 90 bend now on. And then what we've done is we put some of the surplus concrete around the bottom of the pipe to try and make sure that moving forward there is hardly any movement in and around this corner. What they would normally do is they would keep this open until that is done, and then they would pour that, but this wasn't even open apart from the front, so we didn't even know that this gap here, this light we're seeing, was even there until we opened up this was complete block. So I would normally open this up both sides, see what you got to do, and then box that in and pour from above to ensure that that elbow is completely caked in concrete. If it did shear, it would have sheared off past the front of the house out there into the ether. But yeah, you can't actually see it out there because it's so bright, it's not allowing it to focus. But anyway, down here we've got the same sort of issue. Forgive me once we go down. The lights are on sensors, so they'll come on as we walk down. So we've got a little bit of a stain on this wall here. This is where we have a soil pipe and the grease trap coming outside. We did have a little bit of a seepage there. I suppose we could really do a digging out and checking that one as well. And then over here, this is where we've had it again. So this has been the worst one. There's the gutter coming down. So this has been open at some stage. And God, I would say about 3 years ago, we dug out all the soil out here. Bear in mind the land outside is about this high. So we're probably about 4 foot, maybe 3.5 foot down. And we dug all of that out and poured concrete into that corner, and it's still leaking, which means it's definitely either coming from the front of the house, which I don't think it is because we concreted that, which means it's definitely done the same thing. It's either sheared off like that one has, which means we need to replace the actual elbow here as well, or it's created a crack of some sort. As you can see, this one leaks sometimes. That is full up with water, a little sump hole. We had 2 sump holes put in the basement, this one here and the one over there, just in case we did ever any water in here. If we did, we can put something in the lowest point. The water does slightly run to it and we can pump it straight out again. And this is where they poured one before. Look, so you can see this was open, this was open, this was open. They've obviously boxed that up at some stage and then poured from above, and that's obviously what it looks like. That's what happens when you don't vibrate. So not ideal. But anyway, as you can see, that staining on the walls where we've had water before. You can see it here as well, but that was coming from that pipe and these 4. These are the solar pipes coming from upstairs. I've got another video coming on the solar, which I'll show you to give you an update on how that's going. We've had a slight bit of damp down here before, and we've had damp here. So, as you can see the pencil line I've drawn on the wall there, it just shows you where we've had damp before. But I think it's the same thing. I think where the soil was obviously outside is sunk, and the pipes have also got weight on top of them as well. I think that's what's putting pressure on these. This one here, we still need to chase this out. This needs to be chased right out here, and this needs to be brought down, because at the moment, as much as that looks like it's actually running slightly left, it's not. It's dead straight, and that is after rectifying it. So before it was leaning backwards. So what we've got to do with this pipe now is dig this out, cut this back, and take this down by about 3 inches to ensure that all of this sink waste runs away properly. At the moment, it's not. So that is it for tonight. I may very well kick on again tomorrow to show you how we're going to finish off over here. But initially it's going to be boxing that up. You can see it a little bit better now it's in the daylight. We need to box that up tomorrow, get that poured, get that sealed up. And then at some stage we will plaster this wall. There's certainly this front wall, that's going to get plastered with a waterproof plaster to ensure that we just keep out any form of damp. But at the moment it's not really used, there's no point. But at some stage, yeah, once that's finished, once all of the actual pipe work's finished on this wall, that one will be plastered like the other side is, with the neck seal in it as well, to ensure if there's any water that does seep through, the neck seal just stops it. But anyway, I'll continue the video tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget to give me a thumbs up below and comment. Let me know what you would have done different on that elbow compared to what I did. Okay, and quickly to finish off, I'll show you the outside. Okay, so that's what we've got now. So we obviously need to tomorrow get that poured right across and filled right up. That'll be interesting. But anyway, and we do have a bit of a sag in this pipe as well over here. So I'm not too sure if it's the weight of the soil or whatever else, but it comes out into the road there. So, but anyway, you can just about see daylight when you look through that end through, but you should be able to see it a lot clearer, which does mean there's a sag in the middle somehow. So, yeah. Got some more work to do tomorrow, that's for sure.